For level 3, we are going to need to multiply both equations by something in order to get a variable to eliminate. So let's put our variables or our equations into our setup. 3x plus 6y equals 0. And this first step really does help us make sure that our variables are lined up, because occasionally we might find an equation where the x is first in one equation and the x is second in the other equation. So we really want to make sure that our x's and our y's are all lined up before we start doing any kind of elimination. So here's our system, and the x's and y's are all lined up. We need to identify which variable we would like to cancel. Once I've looked at that, I realize that I need to multiply both equations by something. So I usually go with the variable that has the smaller coefficients because I know that I'll be dealing with smaller numbers. But it truly does not matter which variable you are going to choose to cancel out. So if I were to cancel out the x's, I need to find a number that both 3 and 5 go into, and that's 15. If you ever have trouble figuring out a number that both of them go into, you can always take and multiply by the other coefficient. So I can multiply my pink equation by by 5, and my blue equation I can multiply by 3, and I would still get a common number that they both go into evenly. That's the same concept of the crisscross method or the happy face method when you are trying to find a common denominator to add or subtract variables or fractions. So to get to 15, I'm going to need to multiply everything on top by 5. And to get to 15 on the bottom, I would need to multiply everything by 3. And I'm already set up to have opposite signs, so keeping these all positive is perfectly acceptable. 3x times 5 gives me 15x. 5 times 6y gives me 30y. And 0 times 5 gives me 0. On the bottom, negative 5x times 3 gives me negative 15x. Negative 5y times 3 gives me negative 15y. And negative 10 times 3 gives me negative 30. So my goal in multiplying was to get my x's to eliminate so that I could solve for y. So let's check to see if that really happens. 15x plus negative 15x cancels out. 30y plus negative 15y gives me 15y. 0 plus negative 30 gives me negative 30. Then we're going to divide by 15 on both sides so that y equals negative 2. So that will go into my y spot. And we are going to use that y value to substitute so that we can solve for our x value. It doesn't really matter which one you choose. I usually go for the one that has the least amount of negatives for me to mess up on. So in this case, it's the pink one. So we will take 3 times x plus 6 times our y value of negative 2 equals 0. And to solve that out, 3 times x is just 3x. 6 times negative 2 is negative 12 equals 0. We'll add 12 to both sides. And 3x is equal to 12. Divide both sides by 3. And x is equal to 4. In the next problem, we're going to need to make sure our variables are lined up. So we have 5x plus 4y equals 9. And the second equation is 3x plus 3y equals 9. In this case, I'm going to choose to eliminate my y's because I don't have a variable that's any easier than the other. And like I said, I typically go with the one that has the smaller coefficients. So I would need to multiply everything in the pink equation by 3, and everything in the blue equation would be multiplied by 4. I don't already have opposite signs set up, so I do need to choose whether I'm going to multiply the top by negative or the bottom by negative. I'll go ahead and multiply the bottom by negative. So all of those 4's need to become negative 4's. The top equation now becomes 3 times 5x, 15x. 3 times 4y gives me 12y. And 3 times 9 gives me 27. Our bottom equation looks like this. 3x times negative 4 is negative 12x. 3y times negative 4 gives me negative 12y. And then 9 times negative 4 gives me negative 36. Our goal in this case was to eliminate our y's so that we can solve for x. So we'll go ahead and start adding the two together. 15x plus negative 12x gives me 3x. 12y plus negative 12y cancels. And then 27 plus negative 36 gives me negative 9. We'll need to divide both sides by 3 so that x equals negative 3. We will now be substituting our x value so that we can solve for y. And we need to pick which equation we're going to do this with. So I'll pick this bottom equation this time because last time I chose the top one. There's really no other rhyme or reason. So we'll have 3 times our x value, which was negative 3, and then plus 3 times our y value equals 9. 3 times negative 3 gives me negative 9. 3 times y is 3y, and it equals 9. We'll add 9 to both sides so that we get 3y equals 18. Then we'll divide by 3 on both sides, and y will equal 6. There's one more problem in our level 3 notes. Number 3, our first equation is negative 3x plus 9y equals 6. Our second equation, negative 5x plus 15y equals 0. I'm going to choose to go ahead and get my x's to cancel, which means the top will need to be multiplied by 5. The bottom will need to be multiplied by 3. And I do not have opposite signs, so I will make the bottom be multiplied by negative 3. So our goal here was to eliminate our x's to solve for our y's. Let's see what happens. 5 times negative 3x gives me negative 15x. 5 times 9y gives me positive 45y. 5 times 6 gives me 30. For the bottom equation, negative 5x times negative 3 gives me positive 15x. 15y times negative 3 gives me negative 45y. And 0 times negative 3 gives me 0. Adding the two equations together, here we go. Negative 15x plus 15x, that cancels. 45y minus 45y, that cancels as well, which leaves us nothing on the left side. And on the right side, we have 30 plus 0, which is 30. Remember, when we get all of the variables to cancel out and we're left with a false statement, which this is, then our answer is no solution. If we were left with a true statement like 30 equals 30, then our answer would have been infinitely many solutions.